The line between Alaska and Canada runs through some of the harshest wilderness on Earth. These wild lands of thick forests, violent rivers, and tall mountains have taken many lives through the years. While most deaths happen because of the rough conditions, dangerous animals, or simple bad luck, some can't be explained so easily. Hidden in these mountains is the famous Chilkoot Trail. Running 33 miles from Dyer, Alaska, to Lake Bennett in British Columbia, this old path was once the main route for thousands of gold seekers during the Klondike Gold Rush of 1896 to 1899. The trail was so deadly it got the name meanest 33 miles in history. Today, though safer than during the gold rush, hikers still face big risks from quick-changing weather and deadly wildlife. But maybe the biggest danger on the Chilkoot isn't the weather, the rough ground, or even the bears. Maybe it's something much stranger. Something that has caused many puzzling disappearances over the decades. People who vanish into thin air, sometimes while their friends are watching, never to be found again. Before white settlers came, this land belonged to the Tlingit people, who controlled the mountain passes and traded between coastal and inland tribes. The Tlingit had their own name for the area, the land where the spirits dwell. They told tales of travelers who would suddenly get lost, of weird lights in the fog, and of something unseen that would follow hikers for miles before making them vanish. These weren't just scary stories to frighten kids, they were warnings based on hundreds of years of watching these mountains. When the gold rush brought tens of thousands of outsiders to the region, the natives warned them about the dangers of the trail, but few listened. Most of the disappearances during that era were attributed to avalanches, hypothermia, or murder, common occurrences in the lawless frontier. But not all cases fit neatly into these categories. Take the case of Edward Bolton, a prospector from San Francisco who joined the rush north in 1897. Bolton was no novice outdoorsman. He had spent years in the Sierra Nevada mountains and knew how to handle himself in the wilderness. On April 12, 1897, Bolton and his party of 5 men were making their way up the infamous Golden Stairs, a grueling 1,500-step snow staircase carved into the steepest section of the trail. According to the accounts of his companions, Bolton was in the middle of the group when a thick fog suddenly rolled in. Visibility dropped to just a few feet, and the men decided to rope themselves together. They had nearly reached the summit when Jerome McKay, who was directly behind Bolton, felt the rope go slack. When the fog cleared minutes later, Bolton was gone. The rope appeared to have been cut with a sharp instrument, not torn or broken from strain. The remaining members of the party searched for days, even bringing in Indigenous guides familiar with the terrain. No trace of Bolton was ever found, no body, no equipment, nothing. One Tlingit guide reportedly told the search party, "The mountain has taken him. You will never find him now." This was far from the last such incident. In the summer of 1906, long after the gold rush had subsided, a family of 4 disappeared while hiking the trail. The Mitchell family, John, his wife Eleanor, and their 2 children, ages 8 and 10, were last seen camping near Sheep Camp, a popular rest stop along the trail. When they failed to arrive at their next destination, a search party was dispatched. What they found was baffling. The Mitchells' campsite appeared undisturbed. Their tent was still properly erected with no signs of animal intrusion or struggle. Inside the tent were their sleeping bags neatly laid out. A pot of stew still hung over the extinguished campfire. All their belongings were present, including valuable items that would have been taken by thieves. It was as if the family had simply vanished into thin air in the middle of preparing dinner. The most unsettling detail came from another hiker who had passed by the Mitchells' camp earlier that evening. He reported seeing the family sitting around their fire, but also mentioned seeing strange lights moving in the forest behind them. He thought they were other hikers with lanterns and thought nothing more of it until learning of the disappearance. As the years passed and the Chilkoot Trail transitioned from a gold rush highway to a historic hiking route, the disappearances continued, though often separated by decades. While some can be explained by the known dangers of the trail, others remain shrouded in mystery. Modern-day park rangers who patrol the trail have collected their own stories. Many report an unsettling feeling of being watched while in certain sections of the trail, particularly near the summit and around sheep camp. Some describe hearing voices or footsteps when no one else is around. A few have even reported seeing hikers in the distance who, when approached, seem to disappear into the landscape. In 1972, an experienced backcountry ranger named Thomas Keller was doing a routine patrol of the trail when he encountered a hiker walking alone near Long Hill. The hiker, a man in his 30s wearing an unusual red jacket, nodded at Keller as they passed. 3 hours later, on his return trip, Keller spotted what he thought was the same man, still in that distinctive red jacket, standing motionless about 50 yards off the trail, partially obscured by trees. Thinking the hiker might be lost, Keller called out and began moving toward him. As he got closer, he realized something was wrong with the figure. Though human in shape, the proportions seemed slightly off, and the man's face was oddly blurred, as if out of focus. Before Keller could get within 20 yards, the figure stepped behind a large tree and didn't emerge on the other side. When Keller reached the tree, there was no sign of the man despite the open terrain offering nowhere to hide. Keller, a pragmatic man not given to flights of fancy, included this encounter in his official report. He later told colleagues that the experience left him with a deep sense of unease that he couldn't explain. He remained adamant about what he saw until his retirement in 1986. One of the most thoroughly documented cases occurred in August 1990 when a group of 5 college friends from the University of Washington embarked on the trail. Mark Davidson, the most experienced hiker among them, took the lead as they ascended toward the summit on their second day. The weather was clear, visibility excellent, and the group was in high spirits. According to statements given by the 4 remaining hikers, Davidson was about 30 feet ahead when he rounded a bend in the trail. When the others reached the same bend mere seconds later, Davidson was nowhere to be seen. The trail at that point was bordered by a steep rock face on one side and a sharp drop-off on the other, offering nowhere to hide and no way to quickly leave the path. The friends called out for Davidson, thinking he might have slipped down the slope, but received no response. They searched for hours before one of them hiked to the ranger station at Sheep Camp to report the disappearance. A full-scale search operation was launched, involving park rangers, local search and rescue teams, and even helicopters. 5 days of intensive searching yielded nothing. No footprints leading away from the trail, no disturbed vegetation, no scraps of clothing, no signs of an animal attack or fall. Davidson's backpack, which he had been wearing when he disappeared, was never recovered. One search team member noted that it was as if he had been plucked from the trail by something above. Adding to the mystery, 2 of Davidson's companions reported having dreams the night before in which they saw their friend walking into a doorway in the air. They dismissed these as typical anxiety dreams until after the disappearance. In the decades since, hikers occasionally report seeing a solitary figure matching Davidson's description. A tall man with a red beard wearing a blue backpack, watching them from the ridgelines near the summit, only to disappear when approached. The pattern of these disappearances shares several common elements that defy conventional explanation. Many occur in areas with limited escape routes. Most happen in clear weather conditions rather than during storms when accidents would be more likely. The victims are often experienced outdoors people rather than novice hikers, and perhaps most disturbing, many disappear in full view of others or within a time frame too short for them to have wandered far. Local Indigenous elders, when asked about these incidents, are rarely surprised. One Tlingit elder, speaking on condition of anonymity, told researchers in 2003, "Our people have always known about the thin places on the trail, where the world of spirits and the world of humans come close together. Sometimes people cross over, whether they mean to or not. Sometimes they are taken." She went on to describe ancient protocols her people followed when traveling through these areas, never hiking alone, wearing specific protective amulets, and leaving small offerings at certain points along the trail. "The white people came and ignored our warnings," she said. "They built their trail right through the sacred places, the dangerous places." Scientists and skeptics offer more prosaic explanations. The harsh environment certainly provides plenty of natural dangers. Hypothermia can cause confusion, leading hikers to wander off trail. Crevasses hidden under snow can swallow a person whole, leaving no trace on the surface. Avalanches can bury victims under tons of snow and debris. And the region's dense predator population, including bears, wolves, and mountain lions, could account for some disappearances. Yet these explanations fail to account for cases where victims vanish suddenly in clear conditions, with companions nearby, leaving no physical evidence behind. In recent years, some researchers have connected the Chilkoot disappearances to the broader phenomenon of people vanishing in national parks and wilderness areas across North America. Author David Paulides has documented hundreds of such cases in his Missing 411 series, noting bizarre patterns that don't fit with conventional mishaps. While Paulides avoids speculating on causes, others have proposed theories ranging from undiscovered predator species to supernatural entities, from interdimensional portals to secret government activities. Without concrete evidence, these remain speculations. What we do know is that the disappearances continue. In 2008, experienced trail guide Sarah Morton was leading a group of 6 tourists when she vanished while the group stopped for lunch near Pleasant Camp. Morton had walked just beyond a small stand of trees, telling the group she wanted to photograph some unusual cloud formations over the peaks. When she didn't return after 10 minutes, the group went to look for her. They found her camera on a rock, still turned on, with the last image showing the cloud formation she had mentioned. Morton herself was gone. The most recent documented disappearance occurred in July 2019 when 34-year-old Canadian photographer Justin Blackwood separated from his hiking partner to capture the sunrise from a vantage point near Stone Crib. His partner, waiting at their campsite, heard a strange metallic sound followed by what she described as a whoosh of air, like a door opening and closing in a pressurized room. When Blackwood failed to return, she went to check on him and found only his tripod perfectly set up, with his expensive camera missing. Blackwood himself had vanished. After an exhaustive 2-week search involving Canadian and US authorities, no trace of Blackwood was found. His case remains open. Today, the Chilkoot Trail is managed as a historical park by both US and Canadian authorities. Hikers must obtain permits, and rangers regularly patrol the route. Safety measures have greatly reduced accidents, and detailed records are kept of everyone who enters and exits the trail. Despite these precautions, park officials admit that sections of the trail remain extremely remote and difficult to search effectively. Some hikers report unusual experiences that stop short of disappearances. Many describe sudden temperature drops in specific areas, even on warm days. Others tell of their electronic devices failing or displaying strange behavior, compasses spinning, GPS units showing impossible locations, cameras capturing unexplainable anomalies in photos. In 2015, a group of hikers reported losing 3 hours of time while traversing the section between Sheep Camp and the Scales. According to their account, they began hiking at 9 a.m. in clear weather. What seemed like 30 minutes later, they checked the time to find it was suddenly 12:30 p.m., with no explanation for the missing time. None of them reported feeling tired or stopping for breaks. Their fitness trackers showed they had covered the expected distance for 3 hours of hiking, but none of the hikers had any memory of those hours. Some researchers point to the unique geology of the region as a possible factor in the strange occurrences. The Chilkoot area sits atop a complex network of fault lines and contains unusual mineral deposits. Certain types of crystal formations and mineral concentrations can create electromagnetic anomalies that might explain some of the electronic malfunctions hikers experience. Some theorists suggest these electromagnetic fields might even affect human perception or consciousness, potentially causing hallucinations or disorientation. Others look to meteorological explanations. The area is known for its rapid weather changes and unusual atmospheric phenomena. Fog can roll in within minutes, reducing visibility to near zero. Under certain conditions, light reflecting off ice crystals in the air can create ghost-like apparitions or false images of distant hikers, a phenomenon similar to the famous Brocken spectre observed in many mountainous regions. But even these scientific explanations fail to account for the physical disappearance of hikers who vanish without a trace. The lack of bodies is particularly puzzling in a region where natural preservation is common due to the cold temperatures. Bodies lost in similar environments have been discovered decades later, remarkably preserved by ice and cold. Indigenous knowledge offers perhaps the most intriguing perspective. The Tlingit people have maintained oral histories about the Chilkoot region for thousands of years, and their stories consistently describe it as a place where the boundary between worlds is thin. In their cosmology, our physical world exists alongside other realms, with certain locations serving as crossing points. According to these traditions, specific meteorological conditions, particularly fog and unusual cloud formations, can indicate when these boundaries are most permeable. This might explain why so many disappearances occur during or shortly after the appearance of sudden fog or unusual weather patterns. The Tlingit also speak of guardian entities that protect these boundaries, sometimes taking people who trespass without proper spiritual preparation. These beings are not necessarily malevolent, but they operate according to laws and purposes beyond human understanding. Modern hikers occasionally report encounters that seem to align with these ancient accounts. In 2012, a solo hiker named Michael Chambers was setting up camp near Finnegan's Point when he observed what he initially thought was another camper about 100 yards away. As he watched, he realized the figure was unnaturally tall, at least 7 feet, and appeared to be watching him intently. When Chambers raised his hand in greeting, the figure mimicked his gesture exactly with the same timing and motion. Unsettled, Chambers turned away briefly to reach for his camera. When he looked back, the figure had vanished, though there was nowhere it could have gone without being visible. That night, Chambers reported hearing footsteps circling his tent for hours, though the ground outside showed no footprints in the morning. Chambers cut his hike short and returned to Dyer, shaken by the experience. Such encounters have led some researchers to propose that the Chilkoot Trail might be what they call a window area, a location where unknown phenomena manifest more frequently than elsewhere. Other famous window areas include Skinwalker Ranch in Utah and parts of the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts, where multiple types of anomalous events seem to cluster. In 2017, a research team from the University of Alaska spent 6 weeks on the trail, equipped with various scientific instruments designed to measure environmental conditions, electromagnetic fields, and other physical parameters. Their published findings noted several anomalous electromagnetic readings at locations associated with historical disappearances, but they could not connect these anomalies to any known natural cause. More intriguing was their documentation of what they called infrasound bursts, sound waves below the range of human hearing that occurred in patterns too regular to be naturally occurring. Infrasound has been linked to feelings of unease, anxiety, and even hallucinations in humans, potentially explaining some of the psychological effects reported by hikers. The team's lead researcher, Dr. Eleanor Hayes, concluded their report with a remarkably candid statement for an academic paper. While we cannot offer a conclusive explanation for the reported phenomena on the Chilkoot Trail, our measurements indicate that something unusual is occurring in specific locations along the route. Whether these anomalies are related to the reported disappearances remains undetermined, but the correlation between our recorded electromagnetic and infrasound anomalies and the historical record of strange events cannot be dismissed as mere coincidence. Park authorities take a more practical approach to the mysteries. Rangers regularly patrol the trail during hiking season, check permits, and ensure hikers are properly prepared for the journey. They maintain emergency shelters at strategic points and can quickly organize search parties when needed. Yet even they acknowledge the trail's unusual history. One veteran ranger who requested anonymity admitted, "I've worked in national parks across North America for 25 years, and I've never experienced anything like the Chilkoot. There are places on that trail where even the most hardened outdoorsman feels watched. I don't know what's happening up there, but I know enough to maintain a healthy respect for it." This respect has extended to park policy. Though it's not publicized, rangers quietly advise hikers to avoid camping alone in certain areas, particularly near sheep camp and the stretch between the scales and the summit. They recommend hiking in groups and maintaining visual contact with companions at all times. For most hikers, the Chilkoot Trail offers nothing more dangerous than sore muscles and spectacular views. Thousands complete the journey each year without incident, taking photographs at historic landmarks and enjoying the same route that desperate gold seekers traveled over a century ago. The trail's documented disappearances, while disturbing, represent a tiny fraction of its visitors. Yet for those who vanish, statistics offer little comfort. Their cases remain open, their fates unknown. Families are left without closure, wondering if their loved ones met with a conventional accident or something more inexplicable. In the indigenous traditions of the region, there is a concept that might offer some perspective. The Tlingit speak of certain individuals being called by the spirits of the land, not as victims, but as chosen ones who cross over into another realm of existence. In these traditions, such a crossing is not necessarily seen as tragic, but as a form of transformation or even ascension. Whether one finds comfort in such beliefs or prefers to seek rational explanations, the fact remains that the Chilkoot Trail continues to hold its secrets. Each year, new hikers set out on the historic path, most unaware of its more mysterious history. They take the same route once traveled by gold seekers, indigenous traders, and those who seemingly stepped off the edge of our world into somewhere else. Today, the trail is better mapped, better patrolled, and better understood than ever before. Modern hikers carry GPS devices, satellite phones, and emergency beacons that their predecessors could never have imagined. Search and rescue techniques have advanced tremendously. Yet despite all these advancements, people still occasionally vanish without a trace on the Chilkoot Trail. Perhaps the words of that anonymous Tlingit elder offer the most fitting perspective. The trail remembers the people who have walked it. Sometimes it decides to keep them. For those planning to hike the historic route, conventional wisdom still applies. Prepare thoroughly, never hike alone, and let others know your planned route and timeline. But perhaps it's also wise to heed the older traditions, to approach the ancient pathway with respect, to acknowledge the spirits of the land, and to understand that in some remote corners of our world, mysteries remain that defy our modern explanations. Is the Chilkoot Trail truly a gateway between worlds, as indigenous traditions suggest? Is it home to unknown natural phenomena that science has yet to classify? Or are the disappearances merely a collection of conventional tragedies given supernatural significance through storytelling and coincidence? The trail offers no clear answers, only more questions with each passing season, and occasionally another empty backpack found alongside the path, its owner nowhere to be seen. One thing remains certain: between Dyer and Lake Bennett, along those meanest 33 miles in history, something unusual occurs with enough frequency to have generated over a century of reports. Whatever it may be, natural or supernatural, scientific anomaly or spiritual phenomenon, it continues to take people from our world, leaving behind only questions and the haunting possibility that some boundaries were never meant to be crossed. Those who know the trail best say that on quiet nights, when the mist rolls down from the peaks and shrouds the ancient pathway, one can sometimes hear distant voices on the wind, perhaps echoes of those who vanished, still making their way along a trail that exists somewhere beyond our understanding, forever walking the Chilkoot. Park rangers aren't the only ones who've noticed strange patterns in the disappearances. Dr. Maria Collins, an anthropologist who has studied the Chilkoot region for over 15 years, points out that many vanishings happen during specific lunar phases, particularly during the full moon or new moon. This pattern matches with Tlingit stories about when the veil between worlds grows thinnest. There's something about the timing that can't be ignored, Dr. Collins explained in a 2020 interview. When we mapped all documented disappearances going back to 1897, over 70% occurred within 3 days of either a full moon or new moon. That kind of statistical pattern doesn't happen by chance. More disturbing are the cases where people have returned, but changed. In 2011, hiker Daniel Norris disappeared near the summit during a solo trek. Search efforts found nothing, and after 2 weeks, he was presumed dead. 3 days later, he walked out of the forest near Deer, the trail's starting point. Norris had no memory of the missing time and couldn't explain how he had covered the entire trail backwards without supplies. Friends and family reported that while he looked the same, his personality had subtly changed. He abandoned his career as an accountant and moved to a remote cabin near the trail, where he creates strange artwork depicting what he calls the spaces between places. In another incident from 1983, a young woman named Rebecca Hayes vanished while collecting water from a stream near her campsite. 36 hours later, she reappeared in the exact same spot, but with her clothes completely dry, despite heavy rain in the area. Hayes could only recall walking through a forest where the trees grew sideways and meeting tall people with no faces. She suffered from night terrors for years afterward. Some researchers have noted similarities between Chilkoot disappearances and strange incidents in other wilderness areas around the world. The dense forests of Romania's Hoya Baciu, Japan's Aokigahara, and parts of America's Appalachian Trail have all developed reputations as places where people vanish under bizarre circumstances. Could these locations share some unknown quality that makes them dangerous in ways we don't understand? Or are they simply remote areas where conventional dangers claim victims who are never found, leading to supernatural explanations? Modern technology has both helped and hindered investigations. While GPS tracking has made it easier to find lost hikers, cameras and recording equipment often malfunction in areas associated with disappearances. Several research teams have reported that their equipment fails precisely when unusual phenomena occur, leaving them with no hard evidence. Despite the risks, the Chilkoot Trail continues to draw thousands of hikers each year. Most are drawn by its natural beauty and historical significance, unaware of its darker reputation. Those who do know the stories often dismiss them as campfire tales, confident that modern equipment and preparation will keep them safe. Yet every few years, someone steps off the trail and into legend, leaving behind nothing but questions and grieving loved ones who may never know what really happened on those mysterious mountain slopes.